list. So you're welcome to join us. Please take seats so that we can begin promptly. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the very exciting presentation of the day from Kenya Water Towers Agency. And as you must have seen in the flyer and in the program, it's on a very exciting topic of livelihood intervention and community participation in water towers conservation. And with us, we have a really knowledgeable and interesting panel. And I'll request that you allow me to usher them to come on stage. And to start us off is Professor Julius Tanui. So when I mention your name, please, panelists, please step up on the floor and take your place. Professor Julius Tanui is the Director General of Kenya Water Towers Agency. He has over 20 years experience in the environmental geoinformation and sustainable development space. Professor holds a PhD from Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in South Africa. And his research for the PhD was towards community environmental education using current institutional resources, GIS and remote sensing and local knowledge, a case of Nandi Hills and Nandi forests in Western Kenya. Professor has a wealth of experience having worked at the Kenya Institute of Surveying and Mapping, teaching in the field of thematic cartography and computer mapping. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. So Professor has worked at the Kenya Institute of Surveying and Mapping, teaching in the field of thematic cartography and computer mapping, geographic information systems and geography. He has served as a senior lecturer and associate professor of Moi University, offering lectures in the areas of environmental education, environmental planning, research, and many others. In short, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Professor Julius Tanui, who is the CEO of Kenya Water Towers Agency. Next on stage, please allow me to welcome Professor Jacob Kibwage, who has over 25 years of experience in lecturing, training, research, institutional management, and other activities. Professor Kibwage is currently a director in AWEMAC, and his current interest is in the provision of technical support services in environmental and social safeguards for different projects. Professor Kibwage is a holder of a bachelor's and master's degree, both from Moi University. He also holds a doctorate degree in environmental studies from Aseno University. As part of his PhD work, he undertook his research thesis in Germany, and he has previously worked in promoting bamboo production in Kenya as an alternative livelihood for crop farmers and communities near natural forests. A lot of people refer to Professor Kibwage as the father of bamboo in this country. So karibu sana, Professor. A round of applause, please. The next, we have a gentleman who we refer to as the father of participatory forest management. His name is Dr. Joram Kagombe. Please take the stage. Dr. Kagombe is a deputy director in charge of socioeconomic policy in KEFRI. He has conducted various research on forestry and allied resources. And I think one of the most areas of interest when you hear of Dr. Kagombe is on participatory forest management, where he has over 30 years work experience in that field. His interests are not just in participatory forest management, but also in forest policy, legislation, and governance, among others, and lately, I think, in natural capital accounting. Dr. Ari holds a PhD in environmental sciences from Kenyatta University, a Master of Science degree in tropical forestry from Technical University of Dresden in Germany, and BSc Forestry from Moi University. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Philip Kisoyan, who works for FAO as the team leader of Natural Resource Management and Global Environment Facility Focal Point. Mr. Kisoyan holds a master's degree in land ecology and other professional training, and is a specialist in forest and landscape restoration, community-based natural resource management. Philip has been a consultant for a number of natural resource management programs in East Africa. He is a registered EIA expert and a member of Environment Institute of Kenya and other professional organizations. Before joining FAO, Philip worked as a lecturer at the Faculty of Environment and Natural Resource Management in Egerton University, Joro, Kenya. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Kisoyan. And then we now have Mr. Jackson Kiplagat, who comes to us from WWF. He's the head of conservation programs. He oversees conservation programs, including nature-based solutions in Kenya. He leads the development and implementation of conservation programs for WWF. Jackson comes to us with over 20 years work experience with communities in nature-based solutions. He's also worked with the forest sector, civil sector organizations, Forest Action Network, Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. Jackson holds a bachelor and master's degree in environmental studies from Kenyatta University. A round of applause, please. And last but not least is the lady. Please, a round of applause for Joanne Karaoke. Joanne Karaoke is the country director, Kenya, for Eden Restoration Project. She comes to us with over 10 years of work experience in the areas of environment, natural resources, and sustainable development. Joanne has worked at the World Agroforestry Center before as program support and has held several positions at African Center for Technology in coordinating multi-country projects. Since taking over her role as the country director in April 2022, Joanne leads a team of professionals with diverse experience and skills. Joanne holds an MA in Development Studies with a specialty in Environment for Development from the University of Nairobi. Joanne also holds a Bachelor of Environmental Science from Kenyatta University. A round of applause for the panelists, please. And last but not least, my name is Vicky Betty Chepkorir from Kenya Water Towers Agency, and I have the pleasure and privilege to be moderating this very interesting session. For those who've walked in, this is an event by Kenya Water Towers Agency, and the theme is looking at community participation, livelihood intervention, and how it has been deployed in water tower conservation. So the panelists with their wide experience will be able to help us to dissect into this topic. But before that, I'd like to invite the first panelist, Professor Julius Tanui, who's going to quickly take us through a PowerPoint, quick presentation to contextualize the discussion for the day, and then the other panelists are going to come in. A round of applause for Professor as he comes. The sound team, please help us to have the presentation up and running. Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry, Vicky. Welcome to this presentation of Kenya Water Towers. Many people will ask you a question as to how do you define water towers? Many a times people ask you, you're dealing with where are those towers, the tanks and all that. But then we wanted to make it simple for us to understand the model of what a water towers is. I think it's a self-explanatory model for us to understand where it all begins, because our main task is to protect and conserve the sources of our water. So this is a model of water towers, all that, but I think because all of us can read and understand, that graph explains very well what a water towers is. But then, of course, there's that narrative of an elevated geographical area, mapping mountains and hills, for us to have a source of water. Maybe next. Uh, for us to understand, I think Water Towers is one of the agencies within the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and Climate Change. But it's one of the youngest agency or organization of government. The journey began in 2008, and the main reason was because encroachment into our water towers. The topic for today is about how then can we partner with those who are living within the communities to protect the source of water. The reason why there was encroachment over a period of time is because probably to understand how we coexist with our communities. And I think that's the main reason. But then in 2008, that task force was formed. The main reason and the main issues were around the encroachment of those sources of water. So in 2009, Interim Coordinating Secretariat was formed, and then the task force report was actually adopted. In 2012, the new agency, Kenya Water Towers, was actually formed. So then we are here, Water Towers. Probably 10 plus years down the line, and we're still working hard to make sure that we protect the sources of our water. So it brings us to the water towers. For us to understand, we have 18 cassetted water towers in this country. If you didn't know that, we have 18. More times people know the big five. The main five is Mount Kenya, Aberdares, Cherangani, Mount Elgon, and the Mau complex, Mau Forest Complex. And that is where the agency was born. It was because of the destruction and encroachment in Mau Forest Complex. Then out of that interim secretariat, which was formed, we realized, the country leadership realized that all the water towers in the country were facing the same problem. Then because they were facing the same problem, then there was need and efforts by government to make sure that we protect and conserve them. So the 18 were cassetted, but then of course we have more than 190 more to be cassetted throughout the country. As to understand the role of water towers in national development, you can see all these, we are around all these things. But again, I go back to what makes water towers, or the sources of water in the country, to be vulnerable is economic activities, the human activities surrounding the water towers. That is the main reason. All these things that you see is as a result of activities around the water towers. But we want to work hard to make sure that we deter them from doing that. And by doing that is to deal with improvement of the livelihoods of the people. In absence of that, if we don't empower the people, you find them encroaching on those water towers. And I think that's the main reason. And that's, again, the reason why we have these panelists who are experts in various areas to help us understand more. Next. We have success stories. And I said again, as we started, Mau Forest Complex was the one which made us to be born. It made the evolution of water towers. And the main reason of Masai Mau, I think all of us, we are in this country, what we've done in that is to try and, as much as possible, to protect it by securing it using electric fence. But again, you come and ask yourself one question. Even if you protect it using electric fence, you still need social fencing. And that's, again, it brings us the issues of community livelihood and working together with the communities so that we can socially protect those water towers, all of them. So these are things that we do in terms of partnering with the communities for the protection and securing of the water towers in this country. So we work with the communities to do that. So we have nurseries, and I think these are things that the panelists are going to share with you. We have also bamboo, when we have a national bamboo demo site, nursery in Kaptagat, which we work again together with, as a ministry, together with the communities to have national bamboo site in that place. We have other initiatives. Lerogi Honey Refinery, we work with the community again. In Kirisha, that is in Samburu. We also have various projects to do with biogases in schools, again, to help people know that we have available resources that they can use rather than going to the forest, and many more. So all these are things that are initiatives to make people cohesive and work together and deter them from encroaching into our water towers. Anything more? Yes. We've had strategic partnership with others. So we are not alone in these initiatives on protection of the watersheds. So we have worked together with FAO, and I'm happy Kisoyan is here from FAO. We've worked together in various projects. Eden Restoration, we have Madam here, she's going to tell us more about that. IUCN in Twende project, which we are working on others. We have also been partnering with the UNDP and the World Bank. All these are partners that we work together to make sure that we successfully protect the watersheds and the water towers of this country through partnership and community livelihood improvement program. So I think I would probably want more collaboration. The reason why we are here is to urge us to be cohesive enough, to work together, to pull together towards the right direction on conservation efforts. And of course, you're going to hear more from our panelists here. So I'd like to end there and say, feel welcome, and please partner with us so that we can conserve and protect our watersheds in this country. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Professor, please. Professor talked about partnerships as a way of working in Kenya Water Towers Agency. And one such partnership he's mentioned is with a group called Eden Restoration, whose country director we introduced earlier. So I'd like to usher in Joanne to just give us a perspective, and especially because their work is in the Mau Forest Complex, which, as we all know, has been a subject to a lot of political debate over time. So using their initiative, they've been able to work with the communities around this very important water tower. And what we'd like to know from Joanne is for her to share the experiences and the impact that their livelihood intervention project working with Kenya Water Towers has had on the local communities. Perhaps just make us understand how this partnership has really impacted on the livelihoods of the communities that are around that forest block. Joanne, please, you can take the stage.
Thank you very much. As already introduced, I'm the National Director for the Eden Reforestation Projects in Kenya. And just a quick bringing you up to speed is Eden Reforestation Project is a non-profit organization whose mission is to facilitate a healthy relationship between people and the land that they rely on. And this is through conservation and also through landscape restoration. And to be able to realize this mission, we have partnered with Kenya Water Towers Agency in restoration and conservation of the Mau water towers. And this we have done through the Adopt the Forest framework. And how we have, the model that we have approached in addressing this is working directly with the community. In the Mau region, as an organization, I'll just quickly give you numbers. We have 110 employees who I will say they are permanent employees on our payroll. And on average per month, that means that there's between 1.2 million to 1.3 million shillings that goes into that community in the form of salary. And then seasonally, that is during peak season, when we have rains, we interact with roughly around 300 people from the community as casual laborers in planting. And this translates into another roughly 90 to 100,000 shillings per month into the community. And besides that, there's an innovative activity that came up through working with this community, and this is hiring donkeys. We hire donkeys from the community to carry seedlings to planting sites where tractors cannot access. And one donkey can carry 200 seedlings, and a seedling they charge us 1 shilling and 50 cents, meaning that one trip of a donkey is 300 shillings to the owner of the donkey, depending with how many number of trips they will get per month. So what does all this mean for us? By directly working with the community that lives adjacent to the forest, we have seen that the project is bringing alternative source of livelihood to the community. And this has not just translated in what we hear, engage the community and then they embrace the project, but we have witnessed community embracing the project such that the success of project is realized because of the milestone that the community is willing to take to protect areas that we have restored, because they have seen this as their project. It's their energy, it's their time that went into restoration. And therefore, the lesson we are learning is, if for a project to succeed, we really need to engage the community, not in a once-off where we'll go and do mass planting, but in initiatives that will translate into income in their livelihoods and their households and enable them to take their kids to school and meet their health need and other initiatives. As a result of that, we are twisting our strategic direction as an organization, whereby we put more weight on addressing livelihoods of the community, and then the less weight on planting, so that we ensure 20 years down the line, when we look back, the community would have coexisted with the forest without them going back to the same forest that they had destroyed to destroy it again because they need to meet their needs. So basically, that's what we are doing as a project in partnership with the Kenya Water Towers. Thank you.
A round of applause for Joanne once more. The concept of community engagement and participation may sound new to some of us, but we have prominent people in this country who have supported the birth of that concept in forest and water tower management. It's evolved and it has different names in different spaces, but I think one that has cut across is to have it christened as participatory forest management. And Dr. Kagombe will help us to understand the evolution of the concept and how it has been operationalized over time, what he considers to be the key lessons learned. He's been in the space for over 30 years, up to and including supporting the entrenchment of this into law. So Dr. Kagombe, please come and help us to appreciate how long this journey has been, what the key lessons have been, and how the future actually looks like, especially in this day and age where the communities who live around water towers are faced with the ravaging impacts of climate change. Daktari, karibu.
Thank you, Betty, for this. I like to say I work with the Kenya Forest Research Institute, and I'm proud that the director, Kenya Forest Research Institute, is with us. Dr. Jane, you can wave. It's good to appreciate that she is with us today. The issues of community managing natural resources is not new, because if we go down the memory line, before colonization, the communities were managing the resources. And they used to have their own governance systems that manage the resource. Then at the beginning of 1900, colonization came, and due to the lessons which were learned elsewhere, it was found that the best way to protect resources is to do gazettement and to sort of remove the communities from managing. And then we brought in what we call command and control. Command and control is where we put the guards to take care of the resources. This continued. And around 1910, that's the time we also started the issues of commercial the plantation forest. This continued throughout colonization time. At independence, we got independence, but we continued with the same practice. However, as we continued with this, there was still a lot of destruction of forests and ecosystems, and there were concerns on how to do best, how to change the narrative. Around 1997, a pilot study was allowed by the PS, the then PS Forest, to pilot participatory forest management in a forest called Rende. And the lessons which were learned through this participatory forest management were crucial when the Forest Act was being revised, and when we came up with the Forest Act 205, those lessons were brought on board. And so the Forest Act 205 came up with a full chapter on community participation, and it allowed that the communities could be used. They can work together with Kenya Forest Service, which was also formed around that time, to manage the resources. The Forest Act 205 was operationalized in 2007, and so we have had PFM working now for a period for almost 16 years. In 2016, this act was later also amended. It was actually revised because, as you are aware, 2010 we had a new constitution, and this new constitution came up with issues of public participation. It came up with issues of equity in natural resource management. And so we had to change the Forest Act 205 to align with the new constitution. And they still embrace the issues of community participation. However, those years we have done PFM, as we call it, we have seen progress, but there's still a lot that need to be done. What have been the key lessons? Before the participatory forest management was introduced, you would find the community saying that this is government forest. And that was a common narrative. Even when the destruction is going on, they were saying it's government forest. But through participatory forest management, through working with the communities and community forest association, that narrative has changed over time. So you find that the communities identify themselves with the resources which are within their neighborhood. So the issue of government forest now is no longer there, and communities feel that they also belong in this resource. There has been a lot of capacity building which has been done for both government and the community, and this has also changed the narrative. It has tried to inform even the communities about why they should be doing such an action in forest. However, we find that there are governance issues with the community association, and this still need to be done. They need to do more. You find government, they need to entrench good governance within the community association. The other issue is issues of livelihood, because as my predecessor said, without addressing livelihood issues within the community, you cannot address the issues of conservation. So the participatory forest management was considering what we were calling a buffer zone, whereby buffer zone is an area adjacent to the community, and you have to do most of the activities within the buffer zone. If it is firewood that the community go to get from the forest, establish firewood or wood lots so that the community can get these materials outside. Therefore, the communities which are next to the resources, they happen to be the people who suffer most due to the adverse issues of the forest. Like when we have issues of animals, the elephants coming in and destroying crops, they suffer most. And so we should work towards improving their livelihood base and diversifying their livelihood base so that they can see the benefit out of being near the forest. It should not just be seeing the negative. And when you're talking of water towers, if you check the river when it is coming from the exacerbated forest, it's not normally a big river. Part of the catchment actually is in communities land. And so we should get interested with the farming practices which are being done, because especially when you are farming along the rivers, when you do farming practices that allow a lot of soil erosion, you find a lot of sedimentation. If it is the dams which have been constructed, the siltation is very high. The cost of even treating the water becomes very high. So those are the issues that we need to do with the communities to improve their livelihood. Because once you improve their livelihood, then you will have better conservation. One of the issues which you have been struggling with all these years is benefit sharing. We have never gotten a good solution, but we hope that the solution is on the way. What do I see as a future? We need to improve governance systems for community organization. We need to work out on these benefit sharing and other incentives. And we are happy that recently the Senate enacted the benefit sharing, natural resource benefit sharing bill. The issues of financing. We need to think of how can we finance the community groups like the CFAs. If you go to the water sector, there is a financing system which allows the community to be financed when they are carrying out the activities. In the forest sector, we need to work out such a system. We also need to think about how we can work with the communities to ensure that we improve the markets and value addition for the products that they get from the forest and the products that they get from their neighborhood. County government is very key because county government are the people who are working with these communities. We need to have them embrace such that they can work with these communities and also bring on board the youth, because most of the community groups, the people who are there are old people. We need to bring on board on youth. There is also the issue of bringing on board partnerships. Partnerships can empower the community, and also thinking about how can we have the CFAs working as business partners, coming out with the business models, such that as they engage KFS and other partners, they are also being meaningfully getting some income. So that is an area we need to work more. And this will lead to enhance livelihood base for the community, and this will also lead to improve ecosystem. Finally, is the issue of trying to get into the green investment, issues of carbon market, issues of payment for ecosystem services. Can we work together? Because these are the same communities we are working with, such that these additional benefits from carbon market, additional benefit from payment for ecosystem services, additional benefit from green investment, all come as additional benefit, which will make the community engage in participatory forest management. Otherwise, we are optimistic. So far, we have over 300 CFAs, and they are all at certain degree of implementation. And at least we are not talking of a community which is not empowered. We have a community who know the resources, and they are in the forefront when the resources is being damaged. So we have a future working with the communities. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please. So many take homes, but one key is to engage county governments more. And I was particularly pleased with that because I can see some CECs of environment in various counties in the room. You've given us so many lessons, and I'm sure we will be able to bring them again as discussion points in the Q&A. But just before that session, allow me to invite Professor Kibwage, Most of us have heard about bamboo in different aspects. And as I said during the introduction, Professor Kibwage is considered to be one of the fathers of bamboo in this country. Bamboo as a grass has been touted to be life-changing, both in conservation and in livelihood improvement. So Professor, as we grapple with the questions that Dr. Kagombe has left us with, how do we engage communities more meaningfully? What has been your experience, especially around bamboo? And what do you think we can do differently and better so that the communities where we serve can benefit more from natural resources? Karibu sana, Professor.
Thank you so much, Vicky, and my colleagues this evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Basically, I think I started working on bamboo for the last, it has taken me almost 18 years to research on bamboo. I started all the way from South Nyanza, where farmers were relying on one crop, that is tobacco, and I was trying to find an alternative to tobacco because of the various healthy implications, destruction of forests. You know, tobacco requires a lot of firewood for curing, and several other social challenges, child labor, and the rest. So in that process, in Homa Bay and Migori counties, I started working with 1,500 farmers, training them to adopt bamboo as an alternative crop to tobacco. Then from there, we had to move in and start comparing tobacco and several other crops, horticultural. We compared with tea, we compared with coffee, maize, what amount of money you can be able to get from 1 acre. From all the studies we did, we have done almost for 15 years. So far, the crops we have in Kenya, the only ones which can match with bamboo are actual horticultural crops. But whatever you see as tea, coffee, and all these other perennial crops, they don't match with bamboo. Bamboo, the incomes are always about 5 times more what you can get from 1 acre of tea or coffee. As Vicky indicated, bamboo has always been categorized as
Thank you very much.
as a tree, but it is not a tree. Bamboo is actually grass. And all the grass that we have in our compounds, as you know, we need to cut it so that it can be able to regenerate faster, and we can be able to have more green gardens. Now, if I can be able to use the history of Kenya, in 1986, bamboo was, there was a ban, a presidential ban, that nobody should cut bamboo, nobody should be seen with bamboo in our major roads, in workshops, and everywhere, because it was actually disappearing in the forest. Why? Because bamboo was misunderstood to be a tree rather than grass, which we need to cut so that it can be able to regenerate faster. Now, in Africa also, we have had that problem against bamboo, a long perception, negative perception about bamboo, that it grows very fast, it can be able to take my land. While in China, it is the opposite. Chinese, they like bamboo because it grows fast. Bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world. You cannot imagine that if you put bamboo in a lab, it can be able to grow 1 meter in 24 hours. And it can be able to shoot up to the maximum height of 30 meters in about 2 months. And then it takes about 3 years to 4 years to mature. And then from there, you can be able to use the bamboo. From even after 2 years, you are able to start using bamboo in the handicrafts industry. But when it matures from 4 years, 5 years, bamboo doesn't require to go beyond 6 years. You need to use it between 2 and 6 years maximum. That's when it has fully matured. Now, bamboo is, so far, according to documentation, it is the only reading product in the world, a natural product which has over 10,000 applications. Imagine 10,000 applications. Bamboo can be used almost everything that we are able to see around us. Nowadays, China, almost 60% of their textile is coming from bamboo, whereas we are struggling with cotton. Yeah? All their furniture is coming from bamboo. Their housing is coming from bamboo. All their pepper, it is from bamboo. There is also bamboo shoots as a source of nutrition, as a source of fiber. There is also all forms of applications in the pharmaceutical industry. So far, we have about 40 to 50 products from bamboo which have been licensed and accredited by the WHO. We have several applications in bamboo in the conservation sector. We are able to use bamboo in protecting the riverbanks for soil conservation and several other uses, water purification and the rest. Bamboo can also be utilized in the housing sector. If I try to be very specific, you are able to use bamboo for roofing, for putting your best ceiling you can ever have. Those ones who have traveled all over the world, go to Madrid and the airport in Spain. That is the best ceiling you can ever see in an international airport. 100% it's made of bamboo. You can be able to do your walls, your panels using bamboo. You can be able to do your floor using bamboo. The most expensive material you can ever use for your floor is a bamboo flooring. You can actually do your furniture, you can do your tables, you can do your utensils and so many other things using bamboo. Or your office materials, you can actually manufacture them using bamboo. Bamboo can be a very good substitute for plastics. Yeah? Anything that you can be able to use plastics, you can find 50% you are able to substitute using bamboo. So this is a material which you are able to get very fast within a period of 4 to 5 years. We are actually able to reach our national targets. I know in Kenya it is 10%, and most countries have put in Africa 10%. We are able to reach that target of our national forest covers within 5 years if we go for bamboo. And we change our perception about bamboo. But there are a few challenges that we need to sort out. One is on policy. Kenya, we already have developed the policy, and now we need to move to implementation. We need to put money into the bamboo production sector. The other thing is on capacity building. We have had several trainings in Kenya. We already have technicians, we have architects, we have engineers in this area. But we need to move to other countries and be able to disseminate the information. Africa, we must be able to look ourselves as one family. We need to share this information. The other thing is to transfer the technology. We need to have this technology. I happen to have traveled to over 40 countries just to learn on technologies around the bamboo processing. Most African countries, we are still importing toothpicks. Can you imagine toothpicks? Why should we import toothpicks, which are made from bamboo? 90% of toothpicks are made from bamboo. Because bamboo is strong, and it is elastic, it's easier, and it's affordable material. And the machine for making bamboo toothpicks is just about 50,000 US dollars. This is something affordable. We are able to do it. We are able to manufacture those toothpicks here. But now we need to get this technology transferred. The other area, we need partnerships. We need to create partnerships with other organizations and other countries which have already made strides in this area of bamboo industry. We need to put money into research and innovations. Our young people need to move into this area. Right now, we are fighting the problem of poverty, unemployment, and the rest. But if we put some seed money to support the youths, then we can be able to get the youths into this sector and create a million green jobs in this sector. Look at the farmers around the forests. The only way we are going to protect our forests, there is no shortcut. Even fencing is not going to stop the communities. What we need to do is to empower those communities. We need to take bamboo seedlings. We need to train them. We need to empower them with machines, workshops, both the youths, the women, and everybody. Now, the goodness with bamboo is that everybody can get a job in this sector, whether it is men, youths, or women, whether they are the physically challenged people in our communities, they can get something to do in the bamboo industry. Finally, I need to indicate that the future for bamboo is bright, because already we have realized that our forests are under threat. So where do we run to? We need to go for alternative materials, non-timber products. And bamboo comes as number one to sort out this problem in providing materials which are alternative to what our forests are able to provide. And the goodness is that bamboo, we can do farming in our homes. Now, I need to finalize by saying that as we move forward, we need to be aware that we have about 1,600 species of bamboo. Yeah, 1,600. But those ones which we can commercialize and be able to get the money, they are about 10, or even slightly more, but for Africa, they are 10. Look at countries like Ethiopia, they have done very well. I think they are the leading. Kenya follows, Rwanda, Malawi, Nigeria, DRC, Congo. These are countries which have made strides in this area. I've stayed in Ethiopia studying their bamboo houses for 6 months. They have the best, most beautiful houses in the world made of bamboo. It is traditional. It's something they have inherited for over 300 years. So these are things that we need to borrow and work as one family in Africa. We choose the best species, the best commercial, those ones which are able to give us value. But I've always seen that we pick things, species randomly, even ornamental species, you find them being planted in forests. No, ornamental species should be planted in our homes, compounds, schools, and the rest. But the commercial ones, we can take them to the farms. But there is a future in this area. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening.
The father of bamboo, indeed. Another round of applause, please. Mr. Jackson Kiplagat from WWF will just pick up from where Professor Kibwage has left. Professor is telling us that we have over 1,600 species of bamboo. We can commercialize over 10 of them. There are more than 10,000 known users of bamboo. No wonder it's called a wonder plant. And a grass, by the way. So, Mr. Kiplagat, from your experience in WWF, especially implementing what we now have christened as nature-based enterprises, which are basically what Professor Kibwage was talking about in the form of bamboo. Other people, of course, call them nature-based solutions, and it's getting christened with different names by the day. But the question we grapple with today as a country, even as we talk about bottom-up, Mr. Kiplagat, is how can we tap into the natural resource space of forest, water towers, to drive green growth, which is actually even the theme of this climate summit. What has been your experience in WWF? Do nature-based enterprises actually work? Do they contribute to livelihood improvement? And if yes, what can we do to make them better so that we can use natural resources to solve the unemployment issue that we have today and drive green growth? Mr. Kiplagat, please.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all of you. As already mentioned, I think discussions around nature-based solutions, nature-based enterprises have something to do with what colleagues have already highlighted here. And borrowing from the definition of nature-based solutions that is used now globally and championed by our sister organization, IUCN, nature-based solutions are basically those actions that protect or sustainably manage or restore ecosystems in order to be able to address human challenges. Whereas on the other side, the enterprises bring in the business part of it. I wanted to just share two stories. One from a nature-based solutions point of view, and one from a nature-based enterprise point of view. And I'll give you a story around a community in Narok County, which relies on a specific water body or water source called Ngongu Engare Spring, which in Maasai or in English, if you translate it, means the eye or the source of the water. This water source is a very important water source for the community. And partners like the Water Services Trust Fund and WWF have invested in securing this water source through restoration and rehabilitation efforts, working with what we call the water resource users associations and the community around this place, to be able to ensure that water continues to flow through restoration of that particular spring. One other option would have been to maybe punch a bowl so that the community can be able to continue drinking that water. But the option was clear that this natural source must continue remaining natural, and therefore those interventions. This water system serves about 5,000 households, and if you calculate with an average of 5 individuals in a family, you can easily get the number of people deriving direct benefits within those community areas. It provides water for irrigation for about 50,000 acres of land, which allows this community to remain food secure. It is also servicing about 5 schools in the area, but more interestingly, it is also offering a recreational opportunity, because the most interesting thing with this water source, is that it has hot and cold water points. So it gives a recreational facility as well for communities and visitors around this. Restoring and ensuring that this water source continues to provide the goods and the services lays credence to the discussion that has already been shared here around using nature to be able to address human challenges, using bamboo to be able to ensure that there is no erosion or further degradation of such a water body. Instead of building a seawall, use mangroves to be able to secure the coast. Instead of building gabions, use trees, use vegetation to be able to ensure that enough water percolates into the service to be able to continue providing water through that stream. The other flip side is actually using nature to be able to drive enterprises. And I think Professor Kibwage has just given us a very good example of how you can transform a fast-growing natural product to be able to give or to derive income. He has just indicated that it is equivalent to one of some of those very good horticultural crops that we are well aware of. In one of the forest areas, in partnership with Kenya Water Towers and the Ministry of Environment and many other agencies, we have been able to support communities to be able to generate income by planting seedlings that can be used for restoration of nature. In 2022, for example, a women group called Tumaine Women Group in Kaptagat in Elgeyo Marakwet County generated about $7,000 US dollars from selling seedlings that were used as part of the restoration efforts for 700 hectares of Kaptagat forest block. They've continued to do so, and even in 2023, they've also earned substantial income from that contribution, and they did so in 2021 and even in 2020. It is indeed possible to make money from nature. We have community groups that continue, for example, to keep bees, apiaries, and they're generating income. In this country, we actually do not have enough of the good honey that we need. And if you go to our supermarket, for example, you can still see imported honey. Yet Kenya is a country situated in the middle of the equator. Africa is not different from Kenya. And it is indeed possible to be able to satisfy the demand by benefiting from that natural enterprise with its value chains across. So indeed, it is possible to derive that, and I think moving forward, we need to look at incentivizing and providing enabling conditions for some of these enterprises to be nurtured into full-blown enterprises that can be able to service the demand that exists. We will be able to protect the nature, but at the same time derive benefits, income directly to our households. Thank you very much.
Interesting stories. Another round of applause. He has indeed told us that we can make money from nature. And most importantly, for the communities around natural resources, which happen to be in the rural areas. And in a country such as Kenya, where we all know the poverty issues in the rural areas and for these forest adjacent communities, the question that then comes to mind is, how then can we use this and all the good stories that we've had here to make the lives of those people who live around these natural resources better? Automatically, the question of financing comes in, because Professor, while standing here in one of the slides, said that KWTA has been able to do this much, but they have been limited because of resources. Every time when we come to conferences such as this, or even in COP, there's talk about billions of money. And I'd want to invite Mr. Philip Kisoyan, who happens to thrive in that space of financing, to debunk to us what it is that we can do differently so that more community groups can be able to make money from nature while conserving the natural resources such as water towers and forests. He has a wide experience, apart from, of course, coming from a development partner, but having deployed initiatives such as Global Environment Facility, Global Climate Fund. So Mr. Kisoyan, please tell us, how can we position ourselves better as a nation and with the different community groups that are around natural resources to be able to tap into these financing opportunities that are in the climate and environment space better? Karibu sana.
Thank you, Vicky. I just want to say that, well, I don't have a blank check. I don't have finance with me here. Well, I work for FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, which is a specialized UN agency with a mandate to eradicate food insecurity and malnutrition. And for us to achieve that goal, we have to secure our natural resource base. And that's where communities come in. Because communities, as we've heard from my colleagues here, they play a very important role. Actually, globally, indigenous communities, for example, control actually a quarter of the world's surface area and a fifth actually of the forest. So they control huge territories, not just controlling, but they're actually stewards, custodians of these so much needed vital ecosystems. So as FAO, we recognize that because then if we secure a natural resource base, then we can secure the flow of ecosystems, goods and services that's also critical to agricultural production. But talking again about in communities, DG here has actually given us an overview of the water towers in the country. And much of those water towers actually are in communal lands. Actually in Kenya, it's only 30% of the land that is registered, about another 10 maybe as gazetted, but over 50% of land in Kenya is actually under communal ownership. But yet this role of the communities in managing these ecosystems are really not maybe been appreciated. Well, we know that there have been policies, and Dr. Kagombe have talked about the PFM, it's anchored in law, and everybody has, of course, talked about the involvement of the communities. But the bottom line is, where is the money? I think where is the money to match this commitment? Of course, Vicky has talked about so much talks about carbon financing, but where is the money still, you know? Actually, globally, the indigenous communities or the local communities only can access up to 2% of the so many billions in carbon financing. So yet they are custodians of these huge tracts of lands. So there's a gap, a huge gap there. So when we talk about financing, I think before we even talk about GCF or GF, we need to talk about our internal financing here. How much are we investing in environmental matters from the public funding, from our national budget? How much are counties investing in here? You know, this is where we need to talk fast before maybe we start also looking outside, because of course, if we don't invest also locally, then you know, we are missing out. We appreciate what FLOCA is doing, the World Bank project on FLOCA, that has actually a conditional fund of 2% of this funding to the 2% budget of counties to be invested in climate change. Well, that is a move. Maybe we want to escalate that up. We want to see if we can up lobby for more public funding on conservation matters. GCF and GEF are basically global financing mechanism, basically designed to help countries implement multilateral agreements. There are a lot of bureaucracies in there. It takes quite a long time to access this funding. And it's normally, you know, channeled through government agencies, intermediaries, and very little really trickle down to the local communities. Although there be some effort by GCF to see that the local communities can actually directly access this funding, but still discussion in place. So I think I want to say that we have really worked well with the Kenya Water Towers. We have worked in a number of ecosystems, supporting communities, and this is where again, Kagombe and also Kiblega talked about the indigenous knowledge, where we have worked with these communities to secure these vital ecosystems, to secure the water towers in those areas, and I want to say that they will continue working together. Well, maybe in conclusion, I would want to say that all this conservation effort cannot be sustained through charity funding. We have to really find a business case that can attract private investment into conservation work. Because I think long term going, we have not really valued these ecosystems. If we develop a good business case, maybe through PES, maybe we can have a more sustained funding of these vital ecosystems. And again, trying to create this awareness that our inaction may be costly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kisoyan, who also happens to have been my teacher at the university. And I can see a couple of our classmates here. Interesting. With that very enriching listening from our panelists, I'm sure we have questions. Can I please request, because this is now the opportunity to hear from you, if you need any clarifications or if you have any questions, or you'd like to continue to shape this construct of community participation in natural resource management, this is the opportunity to do it. I believe I have a roaming mic, so if you have a question, please, real quick, shoot up your hand, and we'll have a mic get to you. A question or a comment from anyone. This is the time, yes. I can see two hands, the gentleman and the lady. Yes, so if you can shoot the question, and please tell us who you're addressing the question to, and then there's a third gentleman at the back. We can take that round first. Karibu.
Thank you so much, our panelists, for the good presentations. I'm Richard from Vihiga. My question goes to the presenter on the PFM, the Participatory Forest Management Plan. I think that was a very good presentation. You took us through the history of the management plan. But then the question stands. At the national and the subnational governments, who initiates the Participatory Forest Management Plan? Is it the KEFRI? Is it the KFS? Is it the county governments? And if it is the latter, the county governments, what has KEFRI or KFS done to bridge the capacity gaps of the county governments to develop the management plan? You also mentioned about 300 CFS with the management plan. I think basically the statistics may not be correct. I want to believe most management plans for most forests are outdated. There is need to update them, I mean. Then the next question is, how do we then partner going forward in developing management plans for the forests which are in counties? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please, next question. I believe those are questions for Dr. Kagombe. Yes.
My name is Brenda Akinyi. My question is on access to finance. What trainings are you giving to the organizations for them to internally do their chamas in order to do agri-biz in development of Kenya Water Towers agencies?
Thank you very much. Again, to the enterprises, Mr. Kiplagat, and maybe Professor, in the community groups that we are working with, what are we doing to build their capacity in different areas? I believe that's Brenda's question, so it can be picked by Mr. Kiplagat and Professor Tanui. Yes, gentleman at the back, please give him a mic.
To the panelists and all attendants here, good evening. My name is Joel Bengich. I am founder of an organization called Kiptapke Environmental Group that is interested in returning the vervet monkey to the forest. So in that line, our organization is planting native trees along all riparians. And that is starting from the sources to small streams, rivers, and we have an ambition of planting all the way to Lake Victoria. So being the agency responsible for water towers, I just wanted to ask, is there any arrangement or a plan for such organization who are actually helping in restoring the water sources, the riparian land, and all other water bodies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joel, would you allow us to take that round of questions? I can see more hands up. So the first one, Dr. Kagombe, please. I don't know if the mic is working over there. Yeah, good. Take it on.
Thank you, and I'll answer the question from Richard, and the question was who initiate. I think there are two issues here. There is participatory forest management and participatory forest management plans. When it comes to initiating PFM, participatory forest management, we say whether the government, whether the development agency or an individual can initiate, because it depends, maybe at that time the person who has the money could be maybe a development partner. But the key thing is, once you initiate, you must involve all the other stakeholders. You don't do it alone, involve the other stakeholders. The issue of participatory forest management plan, that one, it depends on where we are doing the plan. As you are aware, there are three types of forests in this country. There is public, community, and private. Now, when it comes to public forests, those are the management of Kenya Forest Service, and so they will normally initiate the development of participatory forest management plan, but they will involve the other stakeholders. When it comes to forests which are at the community, and there are quite a lot of these forests, which the county government are the custodians, especially when you talk about the arid, semi-arid areas. These are forests which are at the community. In such a case, the person who should initiate is actually the county or any other development partner working within there, but they must also involve the other people. The issue of capacity building, I think this is an area we have been working together, and we will continue working because we have to improve capacity building for all groups of people. One thing is just like the FLOCAP, where the counties were first in enacting Climate Change Act, it's important that also the counties enact within their county assemblies the forest policy and forest legislation. And towards it, in 2021, we worked with UNDP, and we did develop a model forest policy and a model forest legislation for counties. So it is very easy for a county to domesticate that to their situation, and quite a number of counties have done that. Because without that, it will be very difficult for the counties to have teeth. Because even when you are implementing the national legislation, you also need to have your county legislation. So I think that's the important, and we need to work together in capacity building. We are all working together as a team. We work national government, county government, because at the end of the day, the resource belongs to Kenyans, and the Kenyans may not know the boundary between the county and national government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kiplagat, on Brenda's question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. WWF Kenya has 5 conservation goals. One of the 5 conservation goals is people benefiting. In areas where we are undertaking conservation work, we always ensure that we are engaging community groups around nature-based solutions, nature-based enterprises. If it is conservancies, for example, we have a lot of work that we are doing in the Mara, in Savo, and a number of other areas where we are working with community conservancies. If it is in the marine sector where we have the beach management units and what we call the village savings loans associations, we are actually engaging them on issues around enterprises. So it is part of our modus operandi in delivering conservation. And if you are in some of those areas where we are, definitely we will be able to work together to be able to deliver that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiplagat. Brenda, Kiplagat is saying this is a networking opportunity. We can work together. Professor, please, any comments on capacity building for the groups?
I think it was tied to the other two questions. Thank you for, is it Akinyi? And Brenda and the gentleman behind there. We in Kenya Water Towers, we have dockets which deals with various functions. And in this one, we have a whole directed or partnership and community livelihood improvement programs. We are also in the former 8 regions, right? We want to call it former 8 provinces, so regions. So we have regional coordinators there. And you feel free wherever you come from to approach them so that we can start a process of partnership and working together. I will not promise that we have resources for everybody, but we partner together. We have a program known as Community Livelihood Improvement Program, which is GOK funded, but the resources are really very, very little. But then when you identify that there is a niche for us to work together, these people here are friends and partners whom we work together. And we work together jointly in terms of working with proposals, and in most cases we have skilled proposal writers who can get the funding. But again, we need to identify whether it is a viable the proposal that can actually attract the funding. But then again, that directorate is there so that we can reach out and work together and partner together. The gentleman there said something about, I don't know where did you say you come from? Where? Oh, Nandi County. Very interesting. I happen to come from that county though too, but he's saying something which is interesting, because when you plant indigenous trees as a way of conserving and protecting the riparians and the watersheds, you're doing a good thing. It takes a bit of time, and if you do the right species, Kefri is here to advise us on the site species to match with where you come from, and the bamboo as well, right from the source riparian all the way to where you said Lake Victoria. It's very important. But then again, we need to work together very closely, because we bring you the other team. Our main work again is to coordinate the rest of us so that you can get the right species, you can get the right knowledge in how to do it, and the know-how and the technology. All of us as a team work together. So again, the regional office which is close to you is in Eldoret, which covers where you come from. Drop your proposal there so that we can sit down and work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm advised that we need to end. But as I ask Director Susan Boyd and Dr. Winnie Musila to come forth to the end so that they can say thank you to our panelists, there was a gentleman who had one last question. Please make it real quick as Director Susan and Director Winnie Musila comes to the front. The roaming mic, please. That's going to be the last one as we come to the end.
Thank you again. Thanking the panelists for the wonderful presentation. Mine is really quick. Communities are really doing intense work here outside. And now we have this thing we are calling carbon market, carbon trade. But again, recently in Kajiado, for instance, the county government squashed one of the projects that was being financed. That was, communities were being paid for the work they're doing in terms of restoring the rangelands. But the county government squashed it on the basis that the purported agent calls themselves climate carbon trade agent was misinforming communities for his or personal gains. Yeah? So my question is, and this will cut across the panelists, anyone who might be in a position to give an answer. What are we doing to ensure that we prevent something sort of a scandal. I'll call it a grain scandal, because agents are coming here outside in plenty, claiming that they are carbon market agents and giving communities the necessary information to be able to benefit from the carbon trade.
Can I answer that
What
so
are
that
we
we
doing
finish?
to enable
Can I answer
communities
Okay.
be in the first hand in receiving this particular, carbon, to receive the monies that are coming through climate finance, and not necessarily the purported carbon trade
Thank you.
agents? Yeah.
Thank you very much, my brother. Please allow me to answer him real quick. For a long time, communities would say they are being conned in the carbon trading space. Yes and no, but we couldn't quite tell if they were, because we didn't have a legislative and policy environment where we can judge that. But 2 days ago, the President of Kenya signed the Climate Change Amendment Act, part of what was being launched today. And part of the reason why that act was being amended was so that it can streamline the same concerns that you have. So my brother, the future is bright, starting 2 days ago and moving into the future. At least those particular provisions have been made. Besides the Climate Change Act of 2016, there's now a bill in Parliament called Carbon Credit Trading Bill, which is now expressing in white and black what is going to happen. In fact, in one of these provisions, the amount of money that the community is supposed to benefit from any carbon enterprise that comes is stipulated, capped at about 25% for some projects and 40% for other projects. So my brother, indeed, it has been a space where a lot of people have taken advantage. It's not just in Kajiado. I know in northern Kenya they've also been concerns, but now the government has brought in the legislative and policy framework, and some sobriety is expected to come. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me request for a round of applause for the panelists as we come to the end. And also request for a round of applause for yourselves for sitting through. I'll finish by saying, if you walked in when we had started, this has been a very interesting conversation talking about community participation and management of natural resources, and trying to introspect how long the journey has been in Kenya and how the future looks like. The panel and the question have underscored that it's indeed an area that we all need to think about, because poverty has indeed been linked to being a driver of degradation. So our natural resources, our forests, our water towers cannot be safe unless we are able to empower these communities with alternative livelihoods. So if you've just walked in, Kenya Water Towers had made an appeal earlier for partnerships. So if you're seated in the room and you have something that you'd like to discuss further with Kenya Water Towers Agency, Professor Julius Tanui is the CEO for Kenya Water Towers. Forgive me for that. And we have a few other staff from the organization, including Director Susan, Edith, and Dr. Winnie Musila, among many others. So feel free to come up with any questions, concerns, and explore any other areas for partnership. And with that, please allow me to bring this to a close from my end, but just to hand over to Professor to formally close the session. Thank you, Professor. Take it over.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know you were going to give me another opportunity. I wanted to plead. We have 1,700 kilometers, cumulative kilometers of the water towers of this country. There's a program known as Adopt a Kilometer for us to secure, like we've done in the Mau, we want to secure the 119 kilometers of the Maasai Mau. We've done the phase 1, 30 kilometers. So we are appealing for Adopt a Kilometer. It costs around 3.2 million. So we're looking into, if we do 1,700 kilometers, of all the water towers which are not secured, I think it translates into 5.2 billion. If you give us for 1 kilometer, it will go a long way. We also have almost a good percentage of the degraded water towers. We have also another program known as Adopt a Block. Adopt a Block is a block of 100 hectares of degraded water towers. If you can partner with us and work with us to adopt a block so that we can rehabilitate a degraded water towers, it is very much welcome. So those are the things that we have, and I appeal to you. we are here, and then of course we can exchange our contacts so that we can start the journey of helping out to work on that direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. A round of applause. He has indicated clearly that networking continues. So without much ado, so that we provide for time for networking, please allow me now to usher my panelists down, led by Professor, and then they can interact with Director Susan and Dr. Winnie Musila as they step down. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for finding time to be here with us today. Thank you so much for the wonderful discussions we've had. Thank you so much.